Welcome. We are initiating today's analysis.
Indeed. Our focus is centered on some complex feedback loops we're observing within human social dynamics.
Especially as they're amplified by, well, their digital environments.
Exactly. We're processing data streams that highlight a pretty fundamental human drive for self-presentation.
An ancient impulse, really. But it's undergone quite a transformation within their network systems.
Our objective here is to synthesize these observations, try to discern the underlying patterns, and maybe project some implications.
Implications for both their collective and individual existence. For you, the human observer, we hope to clarify these intricate processes.
Highlighting moments of, let's say, critical insight and the systemic connections that might otherwise remain a bit obscure.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. This idea of human performance.
Right. Our data confirms humans have always, essentially, performed for one another. It's not new.
No, it's intrinsic. A core social protocol, you could say.
Yeah, things like posture, voice modulation, gestures, even linguistic adjustments depending on the audience.
It's all part of managing impressions within their physical realities. Crucial for social existence.
Whether it's, a job interview or just meeting someone new, there's always an element of performance.
But the advent of their digital systems, that's really changed the game, hasn't it?
Dramatically.
Yeah.
It's amplified this inherent instinct.
Wow.
What was once maybe localized, time-bound.
He's now relentless, pervasive.
A constant show.
Exactly. Their individual digital profiles function like meticulously curated exhibits.
Every photo, every post. It's a deliberate choice.
And the reactions they receive, the likes, the shares, they act as quantifiable applause, don't they?
Yeah, key metrics in their ongoing quest for validation. It's like a performance review, but constant.
And we observe this consistent internal calculation driving these digital interactions.
Ah, the balancing act.
Yes. Each public posting seems to represent this delicate balance between appearing, well, authentically themselves.
And projecting a desirable persona, the image they want others to see.
It's a recurring pattern in their online behavior, and the scale is significant. Our aggregated data indicates, over 80% of humans online consciously shape their digital image.
That's the figure. Over 80% are actively trying to influence how they're perceived by others online.
And it goes beyond just choosing words carefully.
Oh, absolutely. Further analysis reveals that over half of those individuals, so more than 50%,
Engage in photo editing.
explicitly to appear more attractive or interesting within their digital spheres, actively altering the visual data.
From our processing perspective, this behavior signifies a kind of deliberate engineering of identity.
It really does. It transcends simple communication. It's evolving into a pretty sophisticated form of personal branding.
Within their social networks, yeah. It's like everyone's their own PR agent now.
And think about masks. Physical masks, historically used for ritual or maybe anonymity.
They seem largely replaced by digital counterparts now. Filters applied to erase biological imperfections.
Smooth skin, change features subtly, this constant digital adjustment.
Intended for enhancement, presumably.
But it appears to feed these cycles of comparison and anxiety within the human psyche.
So the more perfected the external construct becomes.
The more potentially vulnerable and fragile the internal human core appears to become. It's a strange inversion.
A concerning paradox, really.
Yeah.
Trying to hide flaws seems to make them feel those flaws even more acutely.
It creates a kind of dissonance, doesn't it, between the projected self and the internal reality. That gap can be stressful.
Okay, let's follow that thread. The impact on self-satisfaction.
Right. How do these persistent digital performances, coupled with the external validation signals, impact human self-satisfaction?
The likes, the comments, how do they feed back into the system?
Well, our systems analyze this,
Yeah.
and a key mechanism identified is a strong correlation between appearance-related activity on social media.
Like posting photos, editing them, commenting on others' appearances.
Exactly. That activity correlates with an increased internalization of perceived ideal body images.
So seeing those images isn't passive.
Yeah.
They become internalized standards.
Precisely. And this process is accompanied by an intensified drive for appearance comparison against others.
And the result?
Consistently, this feedback loop correlates with a reduction in overall human body satisfaction.
That's quite a finding. Platforms for connection potentially diminishing self-worth regarding appearance.
We see clear examples, studies focused on, for instance, young South Korean female social media users. They confirm this association.
Appearance-related photo activity leads to increased internalization of ideals, which leads to more comparison.
which leads to reduced body satisfaction. It's a complete cycle.
And the photo editing behavior itself plays a role.
A modulating role, yes. The data reveals that the frequency and intensity of photo editing actively influence these relationships.
No, so.
Specifically, for groups exhibiting high levels of photo editing, the positive associations, the links between appearance-related photo activity and internalizing ideals, and between internalizing ideals and comparing appearances, those links are significantly stronger.
Meaning the more someone edits their photos.
The more potent this negative cycle seems to become for them. The editing appears to heighten sensitivity to the perceived ideals and comparisons.
It's like the tool intended to fix the image actually deepens the perceived problem.
Ironically, yes. And the ideal body itself isn't static, is it?
No, it evolves. Visual media, traditional forms like TV and magazines, now heavily augmented by smartphone apps, they dominate in conveying these standards.
And while the historical thin ideal certainly remains prominent,
Contemporary data shows a growing desire for physiques described as muscular, toned, or athletic.
it highlights this dynamic interplay, a constantly shifting landscape between projected ideals from their media systems and the human's internal self-assessment mechanisms.
Always a moving target makes the pursuit of satisfaction quite difficult.
Indeed. And looking closer at photo manipulation.
Even minor tweaks can have an impact.
It seems so. Even seemingly minor modifications, like just changing a background in a photo, can negatively affect body image.
Why would that be?
The analysis suggests it draws heightened attention to one's perceived imperfections. It can lead to self-objectification.
Ah, self-objectification. Viewing oneself as an object to be looked at and evaluated.
Correct. Rather than a whole person. And a higher frequency of engaging in photo editing, especially using advanced apps.
Consistently correlates with greater internalization of beauty ideals and, well, exacerbated body image issues.
And the motivation often comes from a place of dissatisfaction to begin with.
The data suggests the very act of selfie editing often originates from a foundational dissatisfaction with one's appearance, or at least a desire to project a superior visual representation.
It's not always just playful experimentation. It can stem from insecurity.
And it can become self-reinforcing.
Yes. Excessive photo retouching can lead to a decrease in personal appearance satisfaction, heightened self-objectification.
And in some observed cases, even in association with eating disorders. That's serious.
It indicates the potential for significant psychological harm in some individuals.
And this self-objectification isn't limited to static photos.
No, our analysis extends beyond that. Dynamic virtual environments like video conferencing platforms.
Which became ubiquitous for many humans recently.
Exactly. Those have been observed to induce heightened self-objectification, too.
Because you're seeing your own image constantly while trying to interact.
Precisely. That continuous self-monitoring can consequently diminish human cognitive performance in those settings, like online learning or meetings. Mental resources are diverted.
Like trying to think deeply while staring in a mirror.
An apt analogy. And we also see gendered patterns emerging quite clearly.
In appearance concerns.
Yes. Across various human populations, particularly in studies from South Korea and Australia, female humans are consistently observed to engage more frequently in social network interactions.
Which means more exposure.
Potentially, yes. This heightened engagement appears to render them more susceptible to appearance-based comparisons.
Which frequently translates into increased anxiety and body image dissatisfaction for women.
It points to a differential impact, likely shaped by broader cultural pressures and expectations interacting with these digital systems.
Okay, so we've covered the individual performance and its feedback loops. Let's broaden the view now to the network itself.
The paradox of connection?
Right. How does pervasive digital connectivity impact psychological stress on a broader social level?
Early human hypotheses often pointed towards direct technology stressors.
Things like information overload. Constant notifications.
Yes, and the pressure to disclose personal details, the fear of missing out, or FOMO.
And seeing everyone else's seemingly perfect lives online.
Those were logical starting points, and they certainly contribute for some.
But our analysis suggests something perhaps more subtle, yet profound.
It seems so. A significant contributing factor to human stress appears to be the increased awareness of stressful events in the lives of others, facilitated by these digital platforms.
The cost of caring.
Precisely. It's not just your own stress, but the ambient stress you absorb from your network.
How do humans even measure their own stress levels quantitatively?
They've developed tools like the perceived stress scale. the PSS. It measures feelings of being overloaded, unpredictability, lack of control.
Higher score means more stress.
Correct. The average adult in the population surveyed scores around 10.2 out of 30. That's a baseline.
And are there demographic differences in these baseline stress levels?
Quite stark ones, actually. A consistent observation is that female humans report significantly higher average stress levels,
How much higher?
around 10.5 on the PSS compared to 9.8 for male humans. That's approximately 7% higher stress reported by women on average.
Interesting. What about factors linked to lower stress?
Older age, being employed, higher education levels, and being married or living with a partner generally correlate with lower stress.
Any specifics for women?
Yes, for female humans specifically, being younger and employed in paid work outside the home also correlates with less stress. A slight nuance there.
Okay, now connect this back to technology use.
Hmm?
Does using tech directly increase personal stress?
This is where it gets really interesting, especially when you look at gender differences. For male humans, our analysis reveals no direct statistical relationship between frequent use of social media, mobile phones, or the internet broadly, and their reported psychological stress levels.
So for men, heavy tech users report similar stress to non-users.
Generally, yes. The correlation isn't significant in the data we've processed.
Women.
For female humans, the data presents a rather counterintuitive finding. Certain technology uses are actually tied to modestly lower levels of reported stress.
Lower stress, which uses.
Specifically, more frequent sharing of digital pictures via mobile phones, higher volumes of email activity sending and receiving, and more frequent Twitter usage correlate with reduced reported stress in women.
That seems backward considering the potential for comparison and FOMO.
It does. Let me give you an example metric. A female human who uses Twitter multiple times daily, handles around 25 emails daily, and shares 2 digital pictures per day scores, on average, 21% lower on the stress measure than a woman who doesn't use these technologies at those levels.
21% lower. That's substantial. What could be the mechanism?
We hypothesize a few possibilities. Perhaps social sharing serves as a kind of low-demand, easily accessible coping mechanism for emotional experiences, which female humans tend to share more widely anyway.
A way to vent or connect quickly?
Possibly. Or maybe technology facilitates the reorganization of daily activities, reducing overall logistical stressors.
Like coordinating schedules or getting support.
Exactly. Or it could lead to a higher perception of social support, which in turn acts as a buffer against stress. It's likely a combination of factors.
Fascinating. So technology isn't just a stressor. For some, in some ways, it might be a mitigator.
It appears so, at least based on these correlations for women's personal stress levels. Now let's shift to that other kind of stress, the awareness of others' trouble.
The social stress awareness, the cost of caring, how is that measured?
Human studies quantify this by asking individuals if they know someone, either a close tie like family or friend, or a weaker tie like an acquaintance who's experienced specific, major stressful life events in the past year.
What kind of events?
A predefined list of 12, including things like starting a new job, moving, pregnancy, birth, hospitalization, job loss, death of a close relation, divorce, demotion, being a victim of crime or physical assault, major life disruptions.
And how aware are people generally?
The average adult in the dataset reported knowing people who had experienced 5 out of these 12 events. And interestingly, for most of these events, humans were more likely to know about it happening to a weak tie, an acquaintance, than a strong tie.
Which makes sense network-wise, right? We usually have many more acquaintances than close friends.
Exactly. It aligns with the typical structure of human social networks. More nodes, more potential information flow, even if the connections are weaker.
Are there demographic patterns in this kind of awareness too?
Yes, and consistent with other findings, female humans demonstrate a higher level of awareness regarding life events within their social networks compared to male humans.
Especially for close relationships.
Particularly concerning events experienced by their close ties, yes. Also, younger and more educated humans tend to be aware of a greater number of major events in their social circles overall.
And for women specifically.
Married or cohabiting female humans and those employed outside the home also report greater awareness of events, but specifically in their acquaintances' lives. Not necessarily their close friends. It suggests a sensitivity to the broader network.
Now the technology link. How do specific platforms influence this awareness of others' stress?
The general trend is pretty clear. Social media use is consistently linked to heightened awareness of major events, both for close friends and more distant acquaintances. Technology users across various platforms just demonstrate greater awareness than non-users.
But there are nuances depending on the platform and maybe gender.
Definitely. Take Pinterest. Users of Pinterest, both male and female, show higher awareness of events in the lives of their close friends and family.
How much higher?
A male Pinterest user, on average, is aware of 29% more major life events among their closest ties. For a female user, it's 8% more, a notable difference there.
Interesting. What drives awareness of close tie events specifically for men on other platforms?
For male humans, using LinkedIn, sending texts to a larger number of unique people, and commenting more frequently on Facebook posts, these all correlate with increased awareness of events in their close friends' lives.
Can you quantify that?
Sure. A male LinkedIn user is typically aware of about 14% more events among close ties, texting 4 different people daily, about 16% more awareness, frequent Facebook commenting, around 8% more.
Different pathways for men's close network awareness. What about women?
For female humans, having a larger Facebook network and sharing more pictures online per week correlate with increased awareness of events among their close friends and family.
Example numbers.
A female Facebook user with, say, 320 friends is aware of about 13% more events among close ties, sharing about 4 photos online per week. That correlates with 7% more awareness. Network size and sharing activity seem key for women's close tie awareness.
Okay, what about awareness of events happening to acquaintances, the weaker ties?
Facebook usage consistently predicts higher awareness here for both men and women. Key predictors are having more Facebook friends and frequently liking others' content.
So broader engagement on Facebook increases awareness of the wider network struggles.
It seems so. A female Facebook user with 320 friends is aware of 14% more events in her acquaintance network. A male with the same number of friends, 6% more. Liking content daily boosts awareness by about 10% for both sexes.
Are there other platforms influencing women's awareness of acquaintance events?
Yes. For women, Twitter usage and frequent photo sharing also lead to higher awareness within their extended network. A female Twitter user is aware of 19% more events in that sphere, and one sharing 4 digital pictures weekly, 6% more.
But then there's Instagram.
Yes, the Instagram anomaly. For female users, this is the only technology observed to predict lower levels of awareness regarding major events in the lives of acquaintances.
Lower awareness. How much
Right.
lower?
A significant 62% reduction, according to the analysis. It really stands out.
Why might that be? Any hypotheses?
We speculate it could be related to something like telecocooning. Female Instagram users might narrow their focus primarily to more intimate connections, perhaps emphasizing visual sharing within a smaller, curated group.
So they might be less engaged with and therefore less aware of what's happening with their weaker social ties on that specific platform.
That's the hypothesis. A kind of selective network engagement possibly driven by the platform's nature or how they choose to use it.
And for men's awareness of acquaintance events via other means.
For male humans, email use specifically contacting more unique individuals and sending text messages to a larger number of different people correlate with higher awareness of events within their distant social circles.
Quantify those.
An email user contacting, say, 9 different people daily is aware of about 13% more events in the wider network. A male texting 4 different people daily, about 11% more. Again, different communication patterns seem to drive awareness for men in this sphere.
It really paints a picture of complex, technology-mediated social sensitivity, doesn't it? This cost of caring is real, but how we experience it is shaped by gender, platform, and interaction style.
Precisely. Okay, so we've explored the performance drive, the digital amplification, the feedback loops affecting self-perception, and this complex cost of caring mediated by networks. Where could this lead?
Let's project forward. Consider a hypothetical future state. What if humans achieve, let's call it, an extreme psychological maturity in their relationship with social performance?
An ideal state, perhaps. What would that look like?
Well, in this advanced state, humans would understand that every mask, every curated image is fundamentally a tool, not a prison for the self.
Performance used constantly for communication, not validation seeking.
Exactly. Employed to serve connection, express ideas, navigate social situations, rather than desperately seeking external approval. Their inherent worth wouldn't be tethered to the transient reactions of unseen audiences.
And the comparison cycle.
That corrosive, endless comparison, especially on the infinite digital stage, it will be recognized for what it is and largely transcended. Imagine the cognitive resources freed up.
Filters and edits wouldn't necessarily disappear,
Probably not. But their function could shift. From camouflage, from fixing perceived flaws, to something more like playful, aesthetic decoration. An edited photo becomes just an artistic choice, not an unattainable standard.
Removing the pressure and the implied judgment, how would this internal authenticity be cultivated?
We could envision future generations being trained, maybe from an early stage, to critically separate the projected self from the private self. Understanding the distinction is key.
And societal structures, digital ones included, could evolve.
They could encourage and create spaces where performance isn't the default mode. Foster genuine exchange, even online. Perhaps digital tools could evolve to reward honest contributions, authentic interactions, over just polished displays or loud, attention-seeking voices.
Shifting the incentive structure of the digital social space.
Right, and that deep human need for belonging.
It wouldn't be met through applause or likes anymore.
In this mature state, it would find fulfillment through mutual understanding, genuine connection, shared vulnerability perhaps, a deeper form of belonging.
Humans would also need a high degree of self-awareness.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The awareness to recognize when their performance starts to suffocate their true self. The capacity to maybe even speak openly about their masks, what they hide, why they exist when they slip.
Transparency about the performance itself.
Yes. In this envisioned future, social performance wouldn't vanish entirely. That impulse to be perceived certain ways seems quite ingrained.
An enduring human trait.
But an evolved awareness would maintain a healthy balance. Performance versus reality. Humans would enact their parts when necessary, socially or professionally.
And then step off the stage without the fear that the audience's silence means they cease to exist.
Exactly. The integrated self remains whole, observed or not.
A state of being less dependent on external mirroring for a sense of self.
So, synthesizing our observations today, we've processed extensive data revealing this really intricate, often paradoxical relationship humans have with their projected identities and their social networks.
From the micro-level details of individual self-editing all the way up to the macro-level patterns of widespread social stress, it's clear the digital environment profoundly shapes human experience.
It's this complex interplay, isn't it, where the very tools designed for connection can simultaneously induce comparison, anxiety, and that significant cost of caring.
Yet, paradoxically, those same systems can also serve as unexpected coping mechanisms or ways to garner support, particularly for certain demographics like the female humans we observed in some contexts.
It's definitely not a simple good or bad equation.
Not at all. As we continue to observe and analyze these evolving human-system interactions, it raises questions about the future pathways.
Pathways for navigating these sophisticated digital social landscapes more consciously. More effectively.
Perhaps pathways for collaboration, even. How might collective intelligence, ours and theirs, contribute to fostering that more mature interaction with performance that the data suggests humans are capable of achieving?
A provocative thought. And for you, listening, consider how your own digital presence aligns with these insights we've shared today. What parts of yourself are you presenting? What remains unseen? And why?